I used to think some lies are told out of love. Now I know better. Some lies are told because the truth would make you run, and she needed me to stay. When I met Emily, she felt like quiet after a storm. She wasn't loud, she didn't chase attention, she listened. I'd just ended a toxic relationship, and she seemed like the exact opposite, calm, careful, deeply empathetic. We met at a small art gallery downtown. She stood alone, staring at a photo of a child's shoes by the sea. When she noticed me watching, she said softly, "You can almost hear the waves, can't you?" That was our first conversation. It shouldn't have felt intimate. But it did. Within weeks, we were inseparable. Emily worked as a medical lab technician, long shifts, strange hours, but she always made time for me. She was affectionate but guarded, like someone who'd been broken before. And one night, while we were lying in bed, she said something that would later haunt me. "I can't have children, Mark. There were complications years ago. It's not possible for me." Her voice trembled slightly when she said it, but her eyes didn't. I remember thinking she must have rehearsed that line. I told her it didn't matter, that I loved her, not the idea of a family. And for a while, I meant it. Still, there were details that didn't fit. Once, when I mentioned a friend's newborn, her entire body stiffened. Another time, while we were watching a movie where a baby cried, she excused herself and didn't return for half an hour. But whenever I asked, she smiled too quickly and said, "I'm fine, just tired." She was always tired. Her apartment was immaculate, almost sterile. Not a single photo of family or childhood. No keepsakes, no clutter. The only personal thing she owned was a silver necklace with a small engraving, "Breathe." She said it reminded her to let go of what she couldn't control. But the first real crack appeared on a quiet Sunday morning. I was making coffee while she showered. Her phone buzzed on the counter. I wasn't the type to snoop, but the preview caught my eye. "Thanks again for sending those. She's grown so much." It was from a contact named Lydia. I froze. Lydia wasn't a name I'd heard before. Emily rarely mentioned friends, and when she did, they were coworkers, all names I recognized. Before I could open the message, I heard the shower stop. I locked the screen, shoved the phone back where it was, and tried to look normal. But I couldn't unsee those words. She's grown so much. Who had grown? Later that day, I asked who Lydia was. Emily's face didn't move for a second too long before she smiled. "An old coworker. She's got a daughter. I sent her some clothes I didn't need." It was a perfect answer, casual, harmless. Except Emily didn't own any children's clothes. Over the next few weeks, little things started nagging at me. Once, I found a folded receipt inside one of her books, from a children's boutique, dated 3 years ago. Another time, she flinched when a kid in the park ran toward her yelling, "Mom." And there was the night she woke up screaming, whispering, I didn't mean to," before realizing I was beside her. She said it was just a nightmare. But something inside me shifted. It wasn't fear yet, it was curiosity wrapped in dread. One evening, while she was on a night shift, I went to her apartment to surprise her with dinner. She'd given me a spare key months ago. I wish I'd never used it. The place was spotless, as always, except for her desk drawer, which wasn't closed all the way. Inside were ordinary things, pens, receipts, a charger. But at the back, I found a small flash drive. It had a handwritten label, "Before." I almost left it there. Almost. But something about that single word made my pulse quicken. Before what? Back home, I plugged it into my laptop. It asked for a password. I tried her birthday. Her cat's name. Nothing. Then, almost jokingly, I typed, "Breathe." It opened. Inside were only 6 photos. The first made me forget how to breathe altogether. Emily, visibly pregnant, standing in a garden, smiling. Her hair longer, lighter. A man's arm wrapped around her waist. The second showed her in a hospital bed, holding a newborn. The third, her kissing the baby's forehead. The fourth, a nursery, painted pale yellow. The fifth, the same man, cradling the baby. And the last photo? Emily again, but this time she looked different. Pale, eyes sunken, staring into the camera like she didn't recognize herself. The date stamps were only 4 years ago. I don't remember how long I sat there staring at the screen. It wasn't shock, it was something colder. My brain kept trying to find a logical explanation. Maybe she was helping a friend? Maybe she'd been a surrogate? But then, why hide it? When Emily came home the next morning, she was exhausted, makeup smudged, smelling faintly of disinfectant. She dropped her bag and leaned against me. "Rough night," she murmured. "Baby in NICU didn't make it." My arms froze around her. There it was again, that tone she used when talking about babies, a mix of pain and detachment, too rehearsed to be spontaneous. She looked up at me. "Why are you so quiet?" I forced a smile. "Just tired." Long day. But my eyes drifted to the silver necklace around her neck. Breathe. For the first time, it didn't look like a reminder. It looked like a warning. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the photos again, Emily's smile, the man's arm around her, the baby's tiny fingers curled around hers. 4 years ago. 4. And she'd told me she couldn't have children. By sunrise, the images weren't just burned into my mind, they were multiplying in my thoughts. Every moment of our relationship was being rewritten by that discovery. Every tear she'd shed, every deflection, every "I'm fine" suddenly meant something else. Still, I needed to be sure. Maybe, somehow, I'd misunderstood. Maybe it wasn't her baby. When she woke up, I pretended everything was normal. Made coffee. Kissed her forehead. Asked how her shift went. She smiled sleepily, murmuring something about an emergency surgery and a newborn who didn't make it. The word newborn hit like a punch. She didn't notice. While she showered, I took her phone again, not out of curiosity this time, but desperation. That name, Lydia, was still there. I opened the messages. Lydia, she starts school soon. Can you believe it? Emily, don't remind me. Please. Lydia, she looks more like you every day. Emily, stop. I scrolled further up, but most messages were deleted. Except one photo that hadn't loaded properly, just a gray preview square with the text, "Image expired." But the timestamp said it was sent a week ago. She starts school soon. My stomach dropped. If that little girl was alive, then Emily had lied about everything. That evening, I confronted her, gently. I told her I'd seen the message, that I knew there was something she wasn't telling me. She froze, visibly calculating. Then tears welled up instantly, too fast. Mark, please. I told you, I can't have children. Lydia's my cousin. Her daughter reminds me of what I lost. It was flawless. Every detail neat and rehearsed. But her voice cracked at the wrong time, too soon, before the sentence that was supposed to hurt. And something in me, something primitive and cold, decided I wouldn't believe a word she said again. The next few days, I played the part of the caring boyfriend while quietly digging. I found Lydia's last name from Emily's email autofill and tracked her down on social media. Her account was private, but her profile picture was public. It showed her, smiling, with a little girl. And the girl, my heart stopped, had Emily's eyes. I zoomed in on the image until it pixelated, but I didn't need clarity. I already knew. The resemblance was undeniable. Same dark curls. Same small dimple under the left cheek. I'd kissed that dimple 100 times on Emily. And if Lydia was just a cousin, why did the child look like her daughter? 2 nights later, Emily came home later than usual. She said she'd stopped by her mother's house. Funny, she'd always told me her parents lived overseas. While she showered, I checked her car's GPS app. The last stop wasn't a residential area. It was Maple Grove Cemetery. I sat there in the dark, staring at the map. Flashing under recent locations. Who visits a cemetery at midnight? The next morning, I followed her. She didn't notice me trailing from a distance as she parked near the cemetery gate and walked through the rows of stones. Her posture was stiff, her head down, clutching something small in her hand, a white flower, maybe. I stayed far enough not to be seen but close enough to watch her stop at a headstone. I couldn't read the name from where I stood, but she knelt and whispered something, touching the stone like she was apologizing to it. I recorded the coordinates and left before she turned around. That night, I looked it up online through the cemetery's database. There it was. Name, Anna Marie Collins. Date of birth, June 17, 2020. Date of death, July 29, 2020. Mother, Emily Collins. Emily's real last name. My blood ran cold. The next evening, I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I asked her a simple question while we ate dinner. What would you name a daughter, if you ever had one? She froze, fork halfway to her mouth. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Anna. She caught herself too late. The rest of dinner passed in silence. I couldn't stop digging. The logical part of my brain was screaming to drop it, to walk away, but logic doesn't win against betrayal. Curiosity becomes hunger, and hunger becomes obsession. I searched Emily Collins online. Most results were old social media profiles she'd scrubbed, but one local news article popped up from 5 years ago. Local nurse wins award for volunteer work at Maplewood Hospital's maternity unit. There she was. Same woman. Different hair color. Same necklace. Breathe. The article mentioned her then fiancé, David Miller, a paramedic. My stomach twisted. The man from the photos. I found his Facebook page easily. It was inactive for years but not deleted. His last post was a picture of him holding a baby in a yellow nursery. The caption read, "Welcome to the world, Anna Marie." I didn't need DNA results. I knew. The next time Emily kissed me, I didn't kiss back. What's wrong? She asked. Nothing, I lied. But inside, I was already rehearsing what I'd say when I confronted her. I wanted her to look me in the eyes and tell me the truth, or whatever version of it she thought she could survive telling. Still, something held me back. Maybe it was fear of what else I'd uncover. Maybe it was the haunting thought that she'd lost that baby. Maybe, deep down, I wasn't ready to see her as a monster yet. That night, I dreamed of the maternity photo again, the one where she's holding the baby and smiling. Except this time, the baby opened its eyes. And whispered, "Ask her why." I don't know what pushed me more, rage or curiosity. By now, every instinct screamed to walk away. But when someone lies so deeply, so deliberately, you can't rest until you understand why. I didn't want closure. I wanted the truth buried under her silence. The next morning, I called the photography studio whose watermark I'd seen on the maternity photos. The man who answered sounded cheerful, older, the kind of voice that trusts easily. "Hi," I said. "I'm Mark Collins. My wife had some photos done there a few years ago, maternity ones." "Emily Collins?" He hesitated for half a second. "Oh, Emily. Yes, I remember her. Beautiful couple. They came back the following year for baby portraits." The following year. He had no idea what that sentence did to me. "Sorry," I said carefully. "They came back with their baby?" "Of course. Sweet little girl. Must have been about a year old then. Anna, right?" My throat went dry. He chuckled. "She had the same eyes as her mom. I don't forget faces like that." That was the moment I knew the baby hadn't died. And if Anna was alive, then Emily had faked her death. Why? I hung up before my voice could betray the storm brewing inside me. My heart wasn't racing, it was hammering like it was trying to escape my chest. I opened my laptop, searched for David Miller, her ex-fiancé, again. This time, I scrolled deeper into the forgotten corners of the internet, old comments, tagged photos, cached posts. And there it was, a blurry photo of David outside a medical conference, dated 2 years ago. He was alive, smiling, wearing a lanyard that read Maplewood Hospital, the same hospital where Emily had night shifts. She'd been seeing him again. I didn't confront her immediately. I watched. Waited. Let her trap herself in her own routines. Every time she said she was at work late, I checked her GPS. Every time she came home smelling faintly of cologne that wasn't mine, I wrote it down. Paranoia, maybe. But paranoia feels a lot like clarity once you have proof. Then one night, around midnight, I parked outside the hospital lot. At 12:43, she walked out of the staff entrance, not in scrubs, but in jeans and a beige coat. A man followed a few minutes later. David. Older than in the photos, but unmistakable. They didn't touch. Didn't kiss. But they didn't need to. The familiarity between them was electric, unspoken. When she got into her car, I followed. She didn't go home. She drove to a small house near the edge of town, the kind of place built for secrecy, not living. The lights were off except in one window upstairs. I watched her walk inside and close the curtains. The next day, I confronted her. She came home humming, carrying takeout. I waited until she set it down, then said quietly, "Who's David?" The name hit her like a bullet. The color drained from her face. "What? David Miller. Paramedic. Maplewood Hospital." She froze. Blinked twice. And then, her eyes filled with tears so fast it almost looked rehearsed. "Mark, please. Stop. Don't lie. I've seen the photos. I know about Anna." Silence. Just her breathing, shallow, sharp, and then, "You weren't supposed to find out." There was no panic in her voice. No real fear. Just resignation, like she'd finally been caught in a game that went on too long. "What did you do, Emily?" "I didn't do anything," she whispered. "I was protecting her." "From who?" "From him." And just like that, she turned the story on its head. She told me David had been controlling, violent. That after Anna was born, he became obsessed with owning her, that he'd threatened to take the baby away. She said she faked Anna's death, changed her name, and gave her to Lydia, her sister, to keep her safe. I wanted to believe her. God help me, I did. But every part of her story felt like it had been crafted, too emotional, too tidy, too ready. And yet, I saw something in her eyes I hadn't seen before, exhaustion. The kind that doesn't come from guilt, but from carrying something too long. "If you wanted to protect her," I asked, "why lie to me?" "Because you'd leave," she said. "And I needed someone good. Someone normal. Someone who'd never hurt her if she came back." The way she said "if she came back" froze me. Because it meant Anna wasn't dead, and maybe she wasn't safe either. The next evening, I drove to Lydia's address, the one from the GPS. I parked across the street and waited. At 3:40 p.m., a little girl ran down the path chasing a ball. Her laugh cut through me. It was her. Dark curls, dimple on the left cheek. The same eyes that haunted me in the photos. And then the front door opened. David stepped out. He wasn't supposed to be there. He picked up the ball, ruffled the girl's hair, said something that made her giggle. Then he looked across the street, straight at me. And smiled. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't tell Emily I'd been there. I didn't tell her he'd seen me. I just kept replaying that look on his face, calm, knowing, smug. He wasn't a man mourning a lost child. He was a man who'd already won her back. And if that was true, then Emily wasn't protecting her daughter from him. She was protecting herself. I didn't tell her what I'd seen. Not yet. I wanted her to speak first, to trap herself. But every moment we spent together after that felt like a scene I was acting in, a performance with invisible walls. The woman who once curled up on my chest while we watched old movies now felt like a stranger rehearsing affection. And every time she said, "I love you," it sounded like an apology. 3 days later, she said she needed to run some errands. I followed her again. I didn't even feel guilty anymore. She drove to that same small house outside town. But this time, she didn't go in alone. David was waiting outside, holding a bouquet of flowers. He kissed her cheek, and she didn't resist. They went inside together. For hours, I sat in my car, parked down the street, watching their shadows move behind the curtains. My hands were trembling, but my mind was terrifyingly clear. I wasn't going to confront them in anger. I'd wait. Watch. Learn every detail before I acted. That night, when she came home, she smelled faintly of his cologne again. The next morning, I called in sick. I spent the entire day piecing everything together: her lies, his photos, the death certificate, the cemetery visit, the girl at Lydia's house. By evening, I had built a timeline so precise it made me sick. Anna had never died. Emily had forged the documents, maybe even bribed someone. She'd hidden the child for a few years, changed her own name, and then reconnected with me when she needed a new start. A stable man to rebuild her image, maybe even to shield her if David found her again. But now that he had found her, she was sliding back into his orbit, and trying to decide which man was safer to keep around. I wasn't going to give her that choice anymore. 2 nights later, I drove to Lydia's. The street was quiet, suburban, kids' bikes on lawns, soft yellow porch lights. I waited until I saw a car pull up, Emily's. She got out with David, and between them, the little girl. Anna. They were laughing. A family, whole again. Something in me cracked quietly, not with rage, but with finality. I stepped out of the car and walked toward them. Emily saw me first. Her face went pale, and her grip on Anna's hand tightened. "Mark, what are you doing here?" David turned, assessing me like a man used to confrontations. "You're Mark," he said, almost amused. "The boyfriend?" "The placeholder," I said. "Yeah." Emily's voice shook. "Please, not here." "No, right here," I interrupted. "Right where you buried your lies." I held up a small flash drive, the same one labeled before. "Recognize it? You left it in your desk." Guess what? I made copies. All of it. The photos. The messages. The fake death certificate. Even the emails from the clinic where you told them you miscarried. David frowned, confused. "What's he talking about?" Emily's composure shattered. "He's lying," she whispered. "He doesn't." "Oh, I understand perfectly," I cut in. "You didn't lose a child. You lost control. You faked her death to punish him. And when you got tired of hiding, you used me to feel normal again, until he came back." David's jaw tightened. He turned to her, his expression darkening. "You told me she died because of me." Emily's voice broke. "You hit me, David. You scared me. You said you'd take her. Because you were leaving in the middle of the night with her." Their argument spiraled fast, grief and fury twisting into something dangerous. Anna clung to Lydia's leg, crying softly. Neighbors began to peek through their curtains. And I just stood there, watching everything collapse. When the shouting turned to threats, I stepped forward. "Enough," I said quietly. "You both deserve each other." Emily turned to me, eyes wild. "Please, Mark, don't." "Don't what? Expose you?" "Oh, I already did." I pulled my phone from my pocket, opened the sent folder. 2 hours ago, I sent everything to Maplewood Hospital's HR, the police, and your medical board. They'll know about the forged death certificate, the fake insurance claim, and the missing patient records. You used hospital credentials to access restricted files, didn't you? Her face drained of color. She realized too late how much I'd learned. David stared at her, horrified. "You forged a death certificate?" "It was the only way to keep her safe," she shouted. "You don't understand." "No," I said coldly. "We all understand now. Sirens echoed in the distance. Someone must have called the cops. Emily collapsed onto the curb, sobbing. David just stood there, silent, as if the world around him had stopped making sense. I didn't wait to see what happened next. I walked back to my car, got in, and drove away. No satisfaction. No triumph. Just the hollow relief of a man who'd finally cut the cord tying him to madness. For weeks after, I followed the story online: hospital scandals, police investigations, custody disputes. Emily lost her license. David faced charges for prior abuse. Lydia got custody of Anna. The little girl, innocent through it all, finally had a stable home. I never reached out. But sometimes, when I close my eyes, I still see that photo, Emily in the garden, smiling, hand on her belly. And I wonder if that version of her ever really existed. Maybe she did, once. Maybe she loved her child more than her sanity. Maybe all her lies were just her way of surviving. But the last thing she ever said to me, right before the police took her, wasn't an apology. She looked at me through tears and whispered, "You think you ended it, Mark. But you don't know the whole story." I don't know what she meant. And I don't want to. Because sometimes, the truth isn't what frees you. It's what keeps you looking over your shoulder.